Vikings are going up against Bryce Young. He loves to scramble. What can they do to stop him from running all over the yard on him? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You like that? 3, 1, 2, 3. You like it?
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I am your host, Luke Braun. Let's find some joy today. You can find the Locked On Vikings podcast wherever you find your favorite shows, whether it is the SiriusXM app. You can find Locked On any trial, any plan of SiriusXM, as well as live broadcasts you can find on SiriusXM of Vikings games. You can find like the home broadcasts and stuff. Thank you so much to those of you who listen to this show every single day. I appreciate you all so very much. And thank you so much to the sponsor of today's episode, which is Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Today on the show, it's Friday, and that means we're going to talk a little bit about the Carolina Panthers. I want to go over Bryce Young and scrambling, as well as the prized picks from PrizePicks. We'll do a little bit of that, pick some squares, and then we will do your bold predictions. Pretty unhinged group of those this week, and I love it. But let's do something serious first, and that is Bryce Young, who is probably going to start. He's been a full participant in practice, and they seem to be moving forward with the intention of starting him. So I'm kind of preparing for this game as though he's going to start. And that means going back and watching other games that he's played so far and some of the stuff that he did. And what I'm noticing is, so Bryce Young loves to bail and scramble and turn things into a scramble drill, right? And that's what he did so well at Alabama. I think in Alabama, from what I remember, and I didn't watch him that close because I knew he was going 1 overall, so I was like, whatever. But from what I understand, he was really good at preserving pockets and manipulating them and running around sometimes, but eyes always downfield, right? And I think here they've encouraged him to run a little more in the NFL here. I don't know. Maybe that could just be a sample size thing, and I could just be totally wrong. Again, I didn't pay a lot of attention to him at Alabama because I knew he was so far out of reach, but he's a scramble ramble kind of guy. This is the kind of thing that I think the Vikings are going to need to get really good at for as long as Justin Fields and Jordan Love are in the division. Somebody that can be improvisational and how to defend the scramble rules. So the best way to defend the scramble rules, it has to be a team effort. So the way that scramble rules typically work, and I think the Panthers do this because or at least they've been doing this. Typically, so you go out for a pass play, everybody runs their pattern, something goes wrong, quarterback breaks the pocket. You look back at the quarterback, you see he's running around. If you are running a shallow route, break deep. If you are running a deep route, work back toward the quarterback and go help out the quarterback. If you're the only guy over there, find a lane and get to being an outlet for the quarterback. And the quarterback's job is to buy as much time as possible until one of those things breaks open and you just kind of have to go schoolyard from there. That's generally the scramble rules. It's all different everywhere, depending on various little nuances of where you were and what that concept is and what was supposed to happen and where you are on the field, but rule of thumb. So when that happens as a defense, you probably can't zone pass off anymore. And in reality, the Vikings are probably seeing this situation after a blitz. So you're probably in man coverage. And then it's just kind of knowing, all right, if scramble ramble starts happening, I'm covering a shallow route, that thing's probably breaking deep. And I just have to be ready for that thing to break deep. And if I'm covering a deep route, he's going to start working toward the ball. I've got to start chasing that. And it's just a matter of kind of knowing what to expect in those situations where the quarterback starts to break the pocket and run around and do stuff. I still kind of think that Bryce Young is more eyes downfield looking to throw than he is looking to, Justin Fields it, and just kind of like take off and start making plays, Lamar Jackson style. I think he wants to throw it a little bit more. So that can kind of make it easier sometimes. I think that's overall a better habit, because, you could just throw for more yards than you can run for, right? But defensively, that can be more difficult because if you present a greater threat of rushing, like a super, super scary one, Justin Fields style, guys will come off of their scramble drill responsibilities to try to go limit you, thinking you've pulled the ball and you're going to go. Because Bryce Young is disciplined enough to look downfield, I don't know if guys are ever going to come off, which maybe he can exploit by running, but it shouldn't be on the guy's man covering to make that happen, right? Until he's past the line of scrimmage, and then, hey, everybody just rally like it's a run play. It should be on the blitzers. And let's say they send 6, so we got 5 in coverage, right? And we flush them out of the pocket, and we got guys chasing around. At that point, it becomes really, really important to contain, right? Whoever's on the outside, whether it's an edge rusher who's usually got contained or a blitzing Jase Medical or whatever, right? Who, by the way, shoulder injury questionable probably. He's been limited, or he was DNP upgraded to limited. We got a lot of upgrades on the injury report, actually. Marcus Davenport practiced on a limited basis. His ankle has kind of been up and down. And people have, by the way, I should probably talk about this. People have been really nihilistic about Marcus Davenport. The thing about these ankle injuries is that sometimes they get re-aggravated. Sometimes you're working through it, and then sometimes that you wake up and it feels worse the next day. And it kind of has to be a process where the timeline isn't really easy to come up with. And you go, I hope this one's short term. And then the next day it's worse than it was yesterday. And you're going, okay, I have no idea how short term this is. And this is why I always will take a big old grain of salt with coaching injury updates, because they've got lots of incentive to lie. So they might just be lying sometimes to try to throw off an opponent or whatever. And they are well within their rights to do so. But B, some injuries do not give you perfect information, right? Some injuries don't have, okay, this will take 18 days to heal and here's our plan. They'll have their plan. They won't share their plan. They'll have their plan, but their plan has to be subject to change sometimes. Anyways, that's what's going on with Marcus Davenport. Limited's a good sign. Hopefully that ankle's coming back, and I would love to see him this week. If not, get him for the Chiefs at least, because that pass rush needs help stat. Anyways, it can be somebody like him or somebody like Jase Medical or Harrison Smith or whoever's blitzing off the edge, or a corner blitzer or whatever, whoever it is, needs to keep Bryce Young inside we'll say the numbers, right? Inside the bottom of the numbers. If you start giving him the entire backfield to run around and then run back the other way and figure it out, guys just can't cover for that long. 3 seconds, 4 seconds, I can, that starts to get long for me to expect you to cover. 5 seconds, 6 seconds, it becomes impossible. They just are going to run around too much. Eventually they will find separation on you once you're just chasing. There's no way to predict it, right? So we need to be disciplined in that sense. And that doesn't mean passive, right? That doesn't mean go park yourself like on a run fit in contain or as a force player. A lot of times you do just kind of grab the outside shoulder of the tackle and hang out there and say, come at me, running back. No, you're not going to. You're going to cut back, and now I've done my job. Sometimes you can get away with that in the run. But in the pass rush, you can't really do that. Because if you just sit there and let him sit in the pocket, he's winning that interaction, right? Whereas the running game has to be a little more proactive. You can't just sit in the backfield all day as a running back. Quarterback, you can sit back there all day, eyes down the field, and you get to make something happen without forcing any of those issues. So pass rush, you got to force the issue, right? But still, force the issue in such a way where Bryce Young cannot get to the outside of you, right? And because the Vikings will be blitzing, they'll have more gaps covered. So one of the things that can happen is if you rush 4, this happened to the Vikings a ton last year. If you rush 4 and you do a good job containing, well, do the math, right? You've got C gap covered, and you've got 2 players left. two A gaps, two B gaps. So you'll have two uncovered gaps. Running back finds it, he runs around, and you're screwed. If you send 6, you can gap it out, and there's nowhere for the quarterback to go. All he can do is get the ball out quickly. And what I see in the Carolina Panthers is that they cannot do that. That they, at least with Bryce Young, slow, clunky. The whole offense just seems slow and clunky. And I think the blitzes can really take advantage of that so long as we're sound on our assignments and we know the scramble drills on the scramble rules on the back end, and we kind of know generally what we're going to see. It makes me feel pretty good about this game, to be honest. I mean, look, the Vikings can screw up anything, right? Fumble 3 times and it doesn't matter what happens on the back end of your scramble drills. But hey, I don't know. I feel like this is one where the Vikings should be able to get some good stuff going, I guess. Let's do prize picks and also your bold predictions. That'll be next. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash, absolute staple in my life, especially during the busier times when I just don't quite have enough time to cook and I can get something delivered right to my door. But if I'm trying to be a little bit healthier, and that's been kind of a goal for me this whole year, and getting into cooking more has helped me getting into better habits there. But sometimes it is tough to go out and go to the store, especially if you're like in the middle of the cook and you're like, oh my God, I forgot this ingredient. DoorDash can help you with that as well. You can just go get one thing from the grocery store and have it delivered right to your door without having to interrupt all of your rhythm, or you can just use it to do all of your grocery shopping because you can't find an hour in the middle of the day to go run to the store and pick up everything that you need. You'll get exactly what you ordered, or DoorDash will make it right. So sit back and enjoy quality groceries just like you picked them out yourself. Get 50% off your first DoorDash order up to a $20 value when you use code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout. Limited time offer, terms apply. That's 50% off of $20. No minimum subtotal, 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code LOCKEDONNFL. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for 50% off of your first order with DoorDash. Today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime. It's going to be an interesting season to get tickets, right? Because, I mean, come on, we all know the Vikings are going to make something interesting out of it, make some weird surge that keeps them in the playoff hunt just long enough for you to maybe justify buying a last-minute ticket. But it's hard to get tickets last minute, right? It's hard to get in, and things get marked up like crazy, but that is what Gametime is for. You can get last-minute tickets in all kinds of flash sales. You can see the view. You can get a picture of your seat's view so you can make sure that you're satisfied with it. And it's not just football games. It's baseball, basketball, concerts, theater, all kinds of stuff. Go browse Gametime or the Gametime app and see what you like. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. That is all one word. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Oh, baby, I'm real excited for these prized picks. Thank you all so much for those of you who listen to this show every single day. My hashtag every day, or shout out in the YouTube comments if you can, or wherever I can hear from you. I love hearing from my everydayers. Let's do prize picks. Prize picks is a daily fantasy game where instead of putting together an entire lineup, you just pick the things that you like, and it's a more than less than game. So you can sort of hone in on just the takes that you have, and you mash them all together to try to hit all of them and maximize your payout. So here's the deal. When I filled this out to prepare for this episode, I did it early enough in the week where they didn't have as many squares up as I wanted for just the Vikings-Panthers game. I've got a couple from the Vikings-Panthers game here, but I did open this up to the rest of the league. I hope you all don't mind. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do Jalen Hurts more than half of a rushing or receiving touchdown. I mean, come on. We're going to get a tush-push touchdown. Slap that thing on there. That one's free. I also deviated from the Vikings game by I wanted to go to the Rams real quick and get Puka Nacua and Tyler Higbee to combine for more than half of a rushing or receiving TD. So if either of those guys gets a rushing or a receiving TD, we win on this square. That one, again, feels like super doable. It doesn't have anything to do with the matchup or anything like that. I mean, this is just a fantasy like volume thing, right? Puka Nacua gets like 20 targets a game. Like, it's going to be a thing. And I know that these receivers aren't, the biggest targets in the red zone, but that's why I'm really glad that Tyler Higbee is a part of this as well. I'm sure Tutu Atwell will have something to do with it. I'm sure that they'll run some, but I kind of feel like I've captured enough outlets, like enough of the pipeline through which this Rams offense runs, where I hopefully will be able to get a piece of whatever goes on in the red zone for the Rams. And hey, maybe they have some weird breakaway play too, right? That always is a possibility. As for the Vikings game itself, a few things that I haven't talked about kind of come up here, right? And first, I guess we'll start with the Vikings running game. So I've got an Alexander Madison square here. PrizePicks sets these amounts, and then you just have to do more than less than, right? So they've set Alexander Madison at 50.5 rush yards. I am going with more than, and that's kind of a bold take, but here's where I'm at. The two things that can kill me here are the Vikings just don't run the ball at all, and it's just a bad volume game. I don't think we have to live there. I think that the Panthers are going to sell out against Justin Jefferson. And truly, how to get Justin Jefferson going, like, is the major question of any Vikings offensive game plan. Totally get that. But I think that the way the Panthers like to set up, with a lot of too high safety pre-snap looks, and then sometimes, a lot of the time, it'll rotate down to like a cover one robber or something. This is the Fangio stuff. This is Ed Donatel, at least structurally similar to Ed Donatel, but leveraged in a different way that actually like works. But this is your sort of every time we've got two safeties on the roof, but we don't know if that means quarters, quarter, half, cover 2, cover 1, cover 3, anything, but it all starts exactly the same way, right? That was kind of the thesis. So if everything always starts the same way, and I shouldn't say always, they do come out in one high structures pre-snap sometimes, but I think I don't think that they're going to do that a lot against the Vikings because of Justin Jefferson. Get those safeties on the roof because this dude can kill us over the top. Plus, now we got Jordan Addison, who's got a penchant for taking the top off the defense. Let's have, we're probably going to see a lot of too high. And that gives the Vikings an opportunity to run. So I think that there will be run efficiency, and I think that gives the Vikings an opportunity for run volume, even if it means we're running a lot and Justin Jefferson isn't getting the ball. And I know that that's the kind of thing that drives people completely insane. But if that's what the Panthers are doing, if they're putting their safeties on the roof and we can just run and take those safeties out of the game, we just have a numbers advantage now. We're just playing 11 on 9, baby. Or 10 on 9, I guess, because if we're running a bunch, the quarterback doesn't count. 10 on 9, baby, that's advantage Vikings. So we'll do that all day until you bring somebody down to stop us, and that's how you get Justin Jefferson going. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this is another game where Justin Jefferson just, like, quiets down for a quarter. And that's fine. That probably means that the Panthers are selling out to beat him, and the Vikings are trying to, figure out their counterpunch. All that is to say, I'm going with more than on Alexander Madison. So the first thing is I think the Panthers are going to play into this, letting the Vikings run the ball. The second thing is the Cam Akers factor. I have no idea how Cam Akers is going to actually come in, so maybe it's unwise. But I'm not sure, look, he wasn't ready with the playbook last week. It's now only 1 week after that. I'm not thinking we go give that dude 30 touches, right? This probably is going to be more of a spellback thing. That's the way I feel. And then maybe it works in more and more as everybody gets a little more familiar with each other. But right now, I don't think that they're going to just like slam the Cam Akers button and go from 0 to 100 immediately. That feels like it's going to be more of a build-up process. So I'm sort of looking at those two factors and thinking, if those go the way that I think they'll go, that kind of both advantages Alexander Madison. And look, 50.5, that's not that many rush yards. So I don't even need to be like that right for this square to win. And then the last one I'm going to do feels like a totally free one. Adam Thielen, more than 4.5 receptions. Adam Thielen has been a target monster for Carolina. He has been an absolutely favorite outlet, whether it is Bryce Young or Andy Dalton. Seems like it's going to be Bryce Young, but even if it isn't, he is somebody that is very clearly the number one option in Carolina, and they're paying him like it, which, again, going back to like cutting him and stuff, very much a better situation for Adam Thielen than what would have been here, right? Outside of like the homeness of it all. But he would have been a secondary option, paid like a secondary option. I think he's getting more targets and more money than he would have got now that he's in Carolina. So good for you, Adam Thielen. And you know what? I hope you do so that I can hit my PrizePicks square. But hey, look, I know that you guys aren't in it for anything but the boldest of the bold predictions. Those are coming up next. Hey, speaking of revenge games, there are a few going on here in the league this week, but there is one that is particularly juicy in Calvin Ridley. And if you have Calvin Ridley on your fantasy team, he seems like somebody that might be an interesting name to watch this week. So eBay Motors and Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer have teamed up to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, whether you are looking for trade targets or start sits or whatever. Well, we got to start him on Calvin Ridley. He's been kind of quiet with Jacksonville, but not for lack of trying. They've had deep opportunities and stuff for him, and it's just kind of waiting for that connection to come in, waiting for that year-long rust to knock off. I don't know. And it seems like Vinny and eBay Motors agree that he may return more to that week 1 form where he totally blew the doors off of everything. eBay Motors understands that for football, it's all about the fit, and it's the same with your car. They've got over 122 million parts and accessories available for your car, and eBay's guaranteed fit means that you're going to find something that actually fits your car, whether it is a battery, something with your air conditioning, a tubing or a filter or whatever. They will help you find something. Just look for that green check. They will help you find something that actually fits your vehicle the right time, the first time. So go to ebaymotors.com and you can find something that is going to have a competitive price and be whatever it is your baby little car needs. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. It's time to get bold. I don't know what that was, and I very much apologize for it, but it's time for the bold predictions, which is where we get to get weird, wet, and wild. It's my favorite segment of the week. I mean, come on, this rocks. I've loved doing this for years. I love you guys. You guys get so weird with it. I've trained you well. This is where you send me your weirdest, most creative predictions. Let's go over some of the ones that we tried last week. By the way, if you get any of these right, I will do probably a YouTube short attempting the gritty. I've never done a gritty before, and I don't intend to try to learn. So it'll be bad, and you can make fun of me for it. King Squeaks said that Cam Bynum would lead the league in tackles by the end of week 3. Bynum was actually 5th going into the week. He is now 8th, so he's actually sunk down. So that one did not hit, even in spirit. Let a Caleb Cook said the Vikings and Chargers would combine for 5+ fumbles, and the Vikings would recover all of them. I actually think we might have gotten there with a couple that, I think actually if one of the Madison ones counted that got overturned, we would have got it, because I think there were 3 fumbles. We recovered one, and then there was a Justin Herbert fumble that went back to him. There was a fumble that bounced straight out of bounds. I think there actually might have been another one. I'm struggling to remember all the fumbles the Vikings didn't recover. There have been many. And then, of course, you had the one from TJ Hawkinson. So we got close to 5 fumbles. The Vikings did not recover all of them. Skull Ethan said that Cam Akers would have more fumbles than yards. That was a tie, both 0, because he wasn't active. That one, it's too bad that I took that one down. And then he was like, it looked so much like he was going to play. They were like really ready, excited to get him in there. But hey, we'll see what he does this week. Connor M said that Madison would have a redemption game and go off for $150 and a touchdown. Hey, man, he had a redemption game. You got that in spirit. He didn't go over 100. 150 is what made that thing bold enough. But you subverted. I mean, we were all so down on Madison last week and that whole run game, and they had a nice week. They had a nice bounce back. JV Swaps said that Cousins and Jefferson would throw the same number of touchdown passes. That would have been fun if we actually got some interesting stuff from JJ. You did get that there would be a wide receiver throwing a touchdown, just not on the right team. Ragnar's Ghost was the one who said that Justin Jefferson would break the single game receiving record, leading to Brandon Staley's last game as a Charger. Honestly, I think if the Vikings didn't throw a pick at the end, we might be talking about Brandon Staley getting fired for that 4th and 1 thing that everybody hated so much. I mean, that was a psycho call. I agreed with it. I think that it was a ballsy thing to do, but hey, a yard to win the game, go take it. Go get a yard. And not getting it is not getting it, but I totally see where he was coming from, so I wouldn't have been too critical of him if this were Locked On Chargers. But either way, not going to be last Brandon Staley game when you win. Let's move on to this week's bold predictions. I get like 100 of these a week, which I love. I love it all so much, and I wish I could go over more. I usually will only pick 5 or 6 of my favorites. So if yours did not get picked, just keep trying, man. I'll try to get to you eventually. First one comes from Zach Walter, who said that Thielen and Addison will have the exact same stat line, from yards to receptions to touchdowns. So it's got to be everything. And I even say it's got to include rushing. If anybody takes a jet sweep, we got to have that on both sides, right? We need perfect equilibrium, perfectly balanced as all things should be. Very fun to drive at, Addison replaced Thielen and what's better here. That's kind of what we're juxtaposing, right? If you want to go with a narrative that's proper for like undisputed with with Skip Bayless or whatever. So yeah, that could be fun. And hey, if they're exactly the same, that is definitely the funniest outcome. Bree Cheese, now we're here, says Vikings get even on the season turnover differential. I cannot possibly express to you how funny that would be. I think that would break all of our brains in half and stomp on them if the Vikings ended up with 7 turnovers in this game. It's happened before. 2019 against the Chargers, Phillip Rivers. The Vikings went to, I think they were at the StubHub Center because SoFi hadn't been built yet. And I was at that game, and they got 7 turnovers. And like 5 interceptions from Phillip Rivers. It was like one of the last games Phillip Rivers ever played as a Charger. So this is not impossible, but it sure is not reasonable to predict, which is exactly what this segment is trying to go for. So good job, Bree Cheese. And it's also a little funny because, our turnover differential at -7 is a joke. RJ Frost says, Ivan Pace has more touchdowns than Bryce Young, enforcing the universal truth that the draft is truly a crap show where luck is the only factor. That'd be pretty good if we got a pick 6 from Ivan Pace and then no Bryce Young touchdowns. I'm not going to do the, I don't think it's bold enough if we do the, like the betting thing that like betting sites will do where it has to be a rushing touchdown for the quarterback to get it. No. We're talking passing, rushing, receiving, any kind of touchdown for Bryce Young. If Ivan Pace does not go blow for blow, we'll match it. A couple people said that like Ivan Pace would have like a Jeremy Chin-esque game. Like remember that game in, I think it was 2020 where Jeremy Chin got 2 back-to-back touchdowns. That Pace would do that. So we're kind of along the same lines here. You guys can all jump onto that bandwagon. Milo Graham said that by the end of the game, Justin Jefferson will have more receiving yards than Justin Fields has passing yards in 2023. Okay, deeply hilarious because this is plausible, which is already funny. I love pointing this out. So right now, Justin Fields has 526 passing yards, and Justin Jefferson has 458 receiving yards. So we're not that far off. We're like, 75-ish off? So that's not crazy, right? 75 yards. The problem is that a quarterback, even on a bad day, will still get like 150 yards. And that's really hard for JJ to do. Although that would be a below average game for him this year if he got 150 yards. That is below his average, which is utterly insane. And we can all just take a moment to appreciate that. Holy crap. So by the end of the game, and I'll say by the end of both games, I don't want to do weird time stamping because our game ended at 3:15 and theirs ended at 3:20, and we actually did. Screw that crap. Okay. By the end of both of the games, Justin Fields will not be the Justin with the most yards to his name in the NFC North. That is, I don't know, are there any other Justins I would have to worry about by making it that? I don't care. This could be fun. Next one goes to Nikaka, who says that Jaquelin Roy, Andre Carter, and Jay Ward all get their first career full sack. Jaquelin Roy's Jay Ward's gonna be the hardest one here because he doesn't really play from scrimmage. So we're gonna have like injuries and stuff, and Jay Ward would have to go in over Lewis Cine, which that would be a narrative. And like Jaquelin Roy, he'll get in some. Andre Carter, he'll get in some. So you could get it with both of those. Jay Ward will be hard. But hey, I could definitely see some like obscure guys getting sacks as the Panthers try to like double team Danielle Hunter or whatever. And the last one goes to Skull Ross, who says that Adam Thielen will set a career high in receptions. Boy, did my heart sink when I found out what game Adam Thielen's career high for receptions was set in. It was against the Bills in 2018, the Josh Allen hurdle game, and he got 14 in that game. So we'll have to get 15 in this one to break that, and that is sufficiently bold. So we'll do some like YouTube short stuff. I'll have the postcast after the game, so make sure you're locked in to Locked On Vikings. I'm allowed to make that one once in my life, and so that's the time that I made that pun. You'll never hear it again. So make sure you watch the podcast feed and you watch the YouTube channel for postcast, and of course Minnesota Football Party, which I hope you guys are enjoying that coming out on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed. It's been a show for a while over on Locked On Minnesota Sports, but we're now putting it on this audio feed, but it's still on YouTube over there. So go check it out if you haven't already. I will see you guys on Monday, no matter what happens in the Carolina game, right? Win or lose, rain or shine, we're here on Locked On Vikings. See y'all next weekend, and as always, Skol.